Week 15's on its way, and if you need some options in your semifinal matchups, here's a few wide receivers that could be good sleeper options this week. The first guy's Tim Patrick of the Denver Broncos. Patrick, he's got a pretty decent matchup this week for Denver on this Saturday game versus the Buffalo Bills. And Patrick, he's been pretty good now the last few weeks, is Tim Patrick. Week 13 versus Kansas City, he had a good game, 4 catches, 44 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Last week versus Carolina, 3 catches, 36 yards, and a touch. And this week versus Buffalo, Patrick, he's going to be on the field. He's going to play. Denver, they got 3 decent receivers there with Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and Patrick. But Patrick, he seems like the best out of all of them right now. He's getting touchdowns. He's making plays. And this season, he's got 5 games over double-digit fantasy points. So that's pretty good for Patrick. He's a guy that can make plays, like I said. He's a big target and a red zone threat. And if they're trailing early versus Buffalo, some garbage time points where Denver's going to have to throw, Patrick might have another good game this week. So I got him as a sleeper. The second one is Gabriel Davis of the Buffalo Bills. We're staying in the same game. Davis, he's been pretty solid for fantasy owners over the last few weeks. And he's available in 91% of fantasy leagues. John Brown, he's still out. And Davis now, since Brown's been out, 3 consecutive double-digit fantasy point games. In Week 12, 3 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. Week 13 at San Francisco, 3 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown for Davis. And Week 14 versus Pittsburgh, 3 catches, 19 yards, and a touchdown. And this week at Denver, I think we could see similar stats. 4 or 5 catches, 50 to 60 yards, and possibly finding the end zone. He's a good rookie here in a loaded draft class that it was this season for rookies is Davis. So if you need a receiver, he's out there in tons of leagues, and I'm going to ride the hot wave with Davis since he's been scoring touchdowns now in 3 consecutive weeks. And the third and final receiver I have as a sleeper this week's Michael Pittman Jr. of the Indianapolis Colts. Pittman Jr., he's been pretty solid since he came back from injury a few weeks ago, and he's got a great matchup versus the Houston Texans that give up the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers. And in their Week 13 matchup, he had a mediocre game with 5 catches, 46 yards is Pittman. But this guy's a good athlete. He can make plays. And this cold offense, Phillip Rivers, he's a gunslinger, and he likes throwing the ball. So I think this week, Pittman could find double digits and possibly the end zone versus Houston. So that's a few wide receivers that I think could be good sleeper options for your fantasy teams heading into Week 15.